this one student that I've got at the moment. He's doing 2 projects, both make about 80 grand each. And I've showed him how to set these up and do the full renovation from interstate as well. So when you've got the right systems there, it doesn't really matter as long as the spreadsheet works. The world's your oyster when you've got the right systems there, basically.
Welcome to Property Banter by Pinnacle Buyers Agents. This is part 2 where we're discussing rooming houses with Vincent from Ascension Rooming Houses. In this episode, we're going to discuss the pitfalls to avoid and the difference in compliance from state to state. Tune into this one, it's a cracker. Vincent, let's get into legislation, avoiding pitfalls and what it's like from state to state. For everyone listening at home or watching on YouTube, what are the differences from state to state and so on? So do you want to kick it off with Victoria?
So with Victoria, you can do 9 bedrooms in a rooming house. So a rooming house is something where we just rent out room by room. It's a really great investment strategy. You can 2, 3 or 4x your income on your rental yield, which is fantastic for a lot of people, but investors get caught regularly on not knowing the compliance. So what that looks like is 9 bedrooms in Victoria, and then you need to do a change of use, which essentially upgrades the fire safety of that building. And what do we mean when we say upgrading the fire safety? What we're talking about is interconnected smoke alarms, as well as emergency lights that sort of light the pathway. So imagine if someone were to light a fire in the kitchen and they just bail and they don't know someone's in room 3. They've never met them. They moved in today. They didn't even see them come in. And they get burnt alive or something like that. It's a horrible situation. So with these upgrades in fire safety, the smoke alarms go off in that bedroom and the lights come on in that bedroom. They know something's up, and it really just is... That's the full scope of works for the change of use. Now, for my clients and coaching students, we use a building surveyor, so we don't have to do disabled access, but if you don't have the right team of people around you, you can get stuck doing ramps, widened hallways, disabled bathrooms. Councils can send you around, or even the team you use.
Because councils don't know the most efficient way of doing things either. And if you don't know what you're doing, they'll make you do. They'll make you do heaps.
And even if you don't have the right team with you, they can have you doing things like, extra car spaces or all of this sort of stuff, like disabled car spaces, and they try and pull together this solution for you that's just not optimal. So it's really important to have the coaching on how to do that stuff, so you don't run into that. But that's how we define the compliance. It's an upgrade in fire safety for change of use, and it's essential to use a private certifier to be able to get around having to do disabled access. Just quickly, Kevin Rudd had put in this disabled access. This disabled access thing when he was in power. I think he had like a nephew that wanted to go into a bed and breakfast, and they did a quick little seek around to see if it would affect any other industries if they upgraded the fire safety to get ramps and things like that to change those classification for those particular buildings. And they didn't look very far because rooming houses got shuttled into that. So it means that investors haven't been able to do these by themselves. They've been stuck having to do that extra work. That's what we talk.
Nice. Tell me about one thing I want to know about is the fire rating between walls. So between rooms. So when you are when you're setting up the rooming houses and you're putting up these walls, do they have to be fire check or fire rated? No. Okay.
No, it's only higher classification. So the next class up is going to be just a higher level. Class 3 is going to be a higher level of fire safety, where we're to start looking at things like sprinkler systems and like a fire panel on the wall that links directly to the fire station and things like that. So we call them Class 1B buildings. With Victoria, you need to do that change of use, taking it from a Class 1A, which is a residential property, to a Class 1B.
So when you do that change, that's where council takes money from you, right? How much does council take off you for that change in classification?
So the council only takes money, like if you lodge a building permit, it's going to depend on the building surveyor you use. You pay for the building permit, you pay for the drafts, You pay for the actual exemption, is what we'll call it, for the disability access. And then you register it with the council. It's like $400 a month. It looks like 15 to 20 grand when all's said and done in terms of compliance.
Yeah.
And that's plans and permits.
Okay, cool. So in Victoria, we're looking at 9 that we can get done, right?
Yeah.
Now, is there a minimum amount of bathrooms for that? Just 2?
One room for every 10 tenants, which is not really...
One bathroom for every 10 tenants.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many tenants are in each room.
Right.
But per 10 in the building. So for every 10 tenants you have in the building, regardless of what the rooming situation is...
One bathroom.
One bathroom goes. Is that across all states?
Yeah, so that's the Health and Wellbeing Act.
That's a national.
Yeah, I think it's national.
National, yeah. Okay, cool.
Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's national. But,
tell me about New South Wales.
That's not enough, by the way. So we put it as a rule of thumb, we want at least 2 for 9 bedrooms, 2 for bathrooms.
Cool. Yeah.
More is better, but if you're, depending on how you're setting them up, how much cash you have as well. Bathrooms are expensive.
Makes sense. Tell me about New South Wales.
They used to have new generation boarding houses, is what they called them. Mm-hmm. Recently, though, it's gone through a council process. I'm pretty sure that anything that goes through a council process is going to take a really long time. A really long time.
Good old council.
Yeah, so you can't do that with private surveys anymore, certifiers. Yeah. You're going to get stuck. And that's where they'll start saying, we want 4 extra car spaces. We'd rather actually have 2 rooms instead of 3. And we want you to put tinsel on the front of every door just because we like it. You know, paint every room pink and green. It's like, well, far out. I don't know why I need to do that, but sure. Yeah. And that will cost you a lot, and it will take you about 6 months, 12 months. Yeah.
Wow.
So New South Wales is sort of gone recently. Yeah. Wow. If you had them set up already, then you're all right. But right now, we won't do them there, and I wouldn't send my coaching students.
Yep. So we'd skip New South Wales based on the degree of difficulty and the costs.
You can do 3 rooms in New South Wales. Mm-hmm. So we define rooming houses as 1 room rented out to 4 or more people. 1 or more rooms rented to 4 or more people. So 4 people in 1 room is a rooming house. 4 separate rooms with 1 person in each is a rooming house. Any less than that is not a rooming house. So you could do 3 rooms on a single lease in New South Wales. You do run into some issues with the building code, so that you wouldn't have locks on the doors and things like that. They may bully you for stuff like that. They may come down and inspect it and be like, if you're doing, you'll have each department from the council come down and they'll tell you what they want. Generally, they're going to say things like, you need a couple of extra smoke alarms outside these doors, close to them, and you need to take the locks off those bedroom doors if you're doing the 3-bedroom model.
So looking at the New South Wales, let's say Sydney in particular, we're looking at the cost of Sydney to rent is not an issue, but to buy it, to set up 3 bedrooms, it's just not worth it in Sydney, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It really depends on the numbers. A really valuable resource is going to be Value My Room on Flatmates.
Value My Room on Flatmates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can type that into Google. Flatmates is owned by realestate.com. They've got really solid data. So when realestate.com stopped leasing single rooms, and by the way, if you've got a property manager who's trying to rent your rooming house through realestate.com, you've probably got the wrong property manager.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah. Unless it's like a studio. Unless it looks like a studio. But Value My Room Flatmates will give you, 25 people looking for every 1 room offered. And it will also give you all the prices for all of the rooms that have rented in the last 3 months. And it will also give you the average that every room's rented for in that area. And the average will fluctuate as each room gets marked as rented. So you could use that as a useful tool and say, can I do 3 bedrooms in New South Wales? Well, let's look at it. How much are people getting? Is it $400 a week, $300 a week? And then what am I going to be getting if I were just to rent it outright? So there may be some leverage there.
Yep. Interesting. And Queensland. Let's talk about Queensland.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in Queensland. A lot of investors around the country have been buying Queensland for some time.
Yeah.
So a lot of investors already have properties up here, and Queensland's incredibly popular, especially post-COVID. So talk to me about the rules around, Queensland rooming, and what are your thoughts on it in general?
It's good. Queensland can have really high rent returns for rooming houses. Whether or not you build them or convert an older one, you can get really substantial rent yields, higher rent per room than you could in Victoria. With Queensland, you still need to go through this private surveyor, and you need to be able to get that change of use done. So you're going to be upgrading the fire safety. Like we spoke about for Victoria, nearly everything will apply. There's a few subtle differences, but it's generally the same game in Queensland, but only 5 bedrooms. One thing to look out for in Queensland is that some of the councils have actually started, when you do this rooming house, some of them will say, well, you've created 5 new dwellings, so because of that, we're going to tax you X amount based on those new dwellings. So you can get hit with, it depends on the council how much they're charging, but you can get hit with an extra.
All right, let's name the worst council because I want to do this. Who's the worst council? Who's the worst offender here?
I think Brisbane City Council has that in place.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But you'd have to check that stuff because you don't want to get hit with an extra, 30 grand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You've done these extra rooms and they're like, oh, well, they're technically new dwellings, so you're going to pay us as if they're new dwellings. We're going to tax you as if they're new dwellings. So that's special for Queensland. Lucky guys here in Queensland. not all these suburbs, though. Just be careful of that because you wouldn't want to go all the way through it and find out that it ruins your numbers.
Yeah. So setting up the 5 rooms in Queensland, how much does that differ from talking about the cost to set up rent to rent at $35K, like we just discussed in our previous episode? What would it cost to do? The
plans and permits is a little bit cheaper in Queensland, but I think that it really depends on the scope of the renovations. So if you want to try and put extra bathrooms in each room, which is really popular in Queensland, like if you owned it, I feel like if you own the property, it may be worth you putting those extra bathrooms in, but you could spend like 100 grand or more. There's some guys who will spend up to 200 grand on a conversion of a property, and they try and move it as close to studios as possible because you don't have the leverage of the 9 bedrooms that you have in Victoria. So your leverage needs to be the quality of the rooms and the service that you provide to people in them. If you're doing something like rent to rent, let's say you spend 15 grand on plans and permits, and then you spend $1,000 each room, it's going to be completely different, So plus your trades, whatever your trades cost to actually split up any walls, or if it's already a 5-bedroom house, then really there's none there. So that's going to be a completely different story. You could say it's $5,000 for the room furnishings, and let's say 15 grand for the plans and permits. So you're talking about 20 grand. So there's 2 very different products there. And the question is, are you creating full 5x5 property, 5 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms? And if you are, it's going to cost you a lot more. But if you're just doing 5 bedrooms by themselves and it's just plans and permits and your fire safety stuff.
And what's the rough cost for that? Let's say it's just the 5 bedrooms. We're not doing the bathrooms. We're not setting up like a studio. We're just going to fit it out. So beds, TVs, whatever.
$1,000 each room.
Yep.
That's a rule of thumb. You could go up to $1,200. We're just talking about like Kogan, IKEA, stuff like that. And then you could say 15 grand for the plans and permits, so about 20 grand. And then you could put in, another 5 to 10 grand for trades, depending on who's setting up your furniture, how many walls. Is it a 3-bedroom into a 5-bedroom, or is it already a 5-bedroom?
Yep.
So 5 to 10 grand we're talking about. And then you put in another 5 to 10 grand for the common space stuff. It'd be 15 plus 5 for the furnishings. So that's 20. You could say like maybe 30 grand. 30 grand, something like that.
30K. 30K for a Queensland setup with 5. And what are we doing in Queensland? Let's say we're in somewhere in one of the Brisbane area city council, Brisbane council regions, so Ipswich, Logan, Moreton Bay, Brisbane City Council. You'd be getting what, 400 a room now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guys are getting pretty high numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you can check all of that stuff on Value My Room Flatmates.
Value My Room.
What I love about these is once you learn how to do them, you can save a lot of money on these setup costs. You just need the right coach to show you how to do that. And you can also do the numbers quite easily. Like it's sort of like napkin maths. It gets a little bit more complicated, but not much. Like you just need to know how much rooms are renting for, and you can use that valuable resource, the Value My Room flatmates, to get that information, and you can see how many people are going to be looking for every one room.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of that information. And if you just put on a really useful key for me is about $30 to $40 on top of the rent price for utilities. So you run your numbers at the room rent price, and then you put aside 30 to 40, which you're going to add on top of that price for the utilities. And so gas, water, electricity, internet, gardening and cleaning per person in a 9-bedroom place. That's going to cover a lot of the other expenses. People worry about utilities.
Yeah.
They think, it's gonna really just chew through utilities. But we have data on hundreds of rooms, and it's averaging like $27 to like $34.
Yeah.
Including all of that stuff per person
room.
per week.
Yep. And out of that, that's 15% management fee as well on the 400 per
Yeah.
room, roughly.
Yeah. So depends on who you get it managed through. A lot of these guys aren't transparent with how they'll manage it. They might say it's 12%, but then you look at it and it's like, we get 2 weeks every time you rent a room, and there's another 10 grand there. So it's like, cool. Well, that's sort of, but that's pretty common. I suppose just read the small print. I'd say a good number would be about 15% as all of your costs.
Yeah.
All of your costs. So you don't want to go in and have, an extra $800 every time someone moves in.
No.
And they, so that's.
Yeah, exactly. So we can get a rooming done in Queensland for $30K.
Yeah.
$400 a room.
Right.
Times 5, so 4 5's $2K.
Yeah.
And what's the net on that, you think?
The income?
Yeah, net income.
Just depends.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on the room rents.
Mm.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the room rents. You can run those numbers pretty easily. Just with those simple numbers there, the $30 or $40 on top for utilities, and then using Value My Rooms, you've got a lot of your expenses. So if you know how much you're setting it up, you can quickly run that. Like anyone watching this video will be able to go run numbers on nearly any property they see on realestate.com in Victoria and Queensland.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell me about other states. Are you working in any other states?
Yeah, so I'm coaching people at the moment to go through into Perth. 6 bedrooms you can do without having to do the change of use. This is awesome because you're going to save the money on the conversions. No smoke alarms, no plans and permits for that conversion. So 6 individuals. I've also spoken to someone in Adelaide who's doing 5 bedrooms with no plans or permits, and he's had councils come through. He's got 31 of these places. Yeah, 31 of these places. So he's absolutely kicking ass. And they're rent to rents.
Yeah.
So
31 rent to rents. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got hundreds of thousands of dollars coming through in the South Australia market, and he's just doing them cookie cutter, just one after the other.
Yeah.
Without the plans and permits there. If you go any further in that, you're going to need to get plans and permits done.
So it's probably in South Australia and Perth, so it'd be less than Queensland to set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, by like circa 15 to 20 grand.
Wow.
Same as Victoria.
Yeah.
Victoria will be the most expensive to set up, but you get the most leverage, dramatically more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you've got you got twice as many rooms you can rent out.
Wow. So for once, Queensland's not winning, because we're always talking about the in the property investment space about Queensland, and everyone loves Queensland, and Queensland's always winning in that space, but not in the rooming house stakes. So
depends. I'm not. I mean, I like the numbers. I want the numbers to work.
It doesn't matter where it is, right? Money's money. The colour of money's the same.
Yeah. So that's really what it is. But I'm sure if you had guys who only sold products in Perth, they'd tell you different. Or if you had guys that only sold products in New South Wales, they'll tell you different. Or Adelaide, they'll tell you different as well. But you can just look at whatever your goal is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've got a lot of coaching students. Like I've got a guy I've just done one for someone from the Sunshine Coast, someone from New South Wales in Victoria. This one student that I've got at the moment, he's doing 2 projects. His goal was to replace his income of about 200 grand. He's doing 2 projects, both make about 80 grand each. And I've showed him how to set these up and do the full renovation from interstate as well. So when you've got the right systems there, it doesn't really matter as long as the spreadsheet works. It's really common in the States, the US, for people to be doing, interstate renovations and interstate wholesaling and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's a really common practice. It's not so common here. I suppose purchasing properties interstate's really common, but I don't know a lot of guys who are going interstate for renos and stuff from a different state. But the world's your oyster when you've got the right systems there, basically.
All right. So for anyone at home now looking to get started, either to purchase a rooming house, purchase a property to convert to a rooming house, or doing a rent for rent, what would be the best advice you could give them to get started?
Get clear on your goals. Yeah, get clear on your goals. If you've got enough cash, go and do what you can with that. Maybe it's enough for a deposit. For the rent-to-rents, it's going to suit people who don't have serviceability, who want to replace their income, who have cash coming in, they're happy in their job, but they want to be able to put cash somewhere else where they're going to get a better return, and they're not buying property. It's really, really helpful for that. But, if your goal is just to own property and you can see huge value in getting that growth, there's a lot of value in that. That's also a really smart move. So,
if you can own, but if you don't have that deposit to get into that first property, then you've got, let's say, 30 to 40K saved. You can get into rent to rent and get started. And
if you don't have that 30 to 40K saved, but you can find a mentor to teach you how to do these rent to rents, you can do a finder's fee. Like I've sold deals as finder's fee recently for like 12, 13 grand. So it's like all you do is you find it. Like a lot of guys who watch this, if they're proactive, they've already pulled apart some numbers while they're watching it. You can go and say, I found this deal, it works, speak to the owner, secure it, the lease, and then sell the head lease. It's like, that's 12 grand. You do that 4 times. How many calls can you make in a week? Can you carve off 2 hours a night to make calls and like create this escape plan, right? So you can get that deposit or get out of that job or whatever it is. So you can go and do those finder's fees, all these reno flips with none of your own cash and start making 10, 30, 40 grand. I've made up to 50 grand on the reno flips.
Nice.
With none of my own cash. So even if you don't have that 30 or 40 grand, you just need the skills. You know what I mean? Once you learn that skill.
No, that's absolutely amazing. It makes me want to hand over the 12K. But no, that's fantastic information. I really appreciate that and hope everyone got plenty of value from today's episode. Thank you so much, Vincent.
No worries.
Please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you for joining us on Property Banter.